Alvin Bragg, and the justice system, as he says that enough is enough. Donald Trump has had enough, and so has Mike Johnson. In fact, House Speaker Mike Johnson has become a very polarizing figure within the GOP, as he has both supporters as well as critics. Now, there are those within the party that he says basically they're saying that he's playing along with whatever the Democrats want. I don't know if you fall into that camp or maybe you agree with what Mike Johnson's doing. But one of those critics is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who continues to push for Mike Johnson's removal from office. Now, one of Marjorie Taylor Greene's biggest concerns is this decision from the Biden administration to now use executive action to deal with our borders. I think it's a little bit late, don't you guys? Now, the problem, according to her, is that this is not a solution, but it would only add to the problem. In fact, Mike Johnson, he's essentially criticizing the president for suddenly realizing what he's actually capable of as the commander in chief. In fact, he's also calling out the entire Democratic Party for what he sees as attacks on former President Donald Trump. And the reason for these attacks is that Donald Trump is probably going to win the 2024 presidential election. Let me know what you guys think about that. But this is, if we base it on the recent polling, where he's just demolishing President Joe Biden. But here's what Mike Johnson had to say about the felony conviction of the former president and why changes need to be made to our justice system. Take a listen to this, guys.
And when the verdict came down against President Trump, there was something palpable that happened around the country. And I don't know if you sensed it where you were and among the groups where you were over the last week, but people realized that we have reached a new low. And when you have activist prosecutors and the Democratic Party who are so desperate because of the presidential campaign and the way it's going, they understand that Donald Trump, all the polling shows, is crushing Joe Biden. They're in panic mode on the Democratic side. And they are so desperate to stop Donald Trump. He's winning in the swing states. He's winning among the people. He's winning among new demographics that have never voted Republican before. They see this happening, and they're so desperate to stop him that they are willing to use the judicial system to do so. It is a new low, and it's a dangerous one, because what they're doing is they're eroding the people's faith in our system of justice itself. As Leader Scalise said, people have to believe that justice is blind. You have to believe that there is equal justice under the law in order to maintain a constitutional republic. This goes to the very core of who we are, the foundation of who we are as a nation, and that's why it's bigger than just President Trump. It's bigger than just these cases. It's about our system itself. And because of that, there is a backlash. President Trump hit a fundraising record the day after, within 24 hours of the verdict. We did as well on our fundraising platforms. We raised record amounts of money because people understand what's at stake now. This is not just a contest between two individuals for president. It's now about whether we're going to defend the integrity of our system itself. And we're going to do everything we can, everything within our scope of our responsibility in the Congress to address it appropriately. And I announced this morning to our conference, we're working on a three-pronged approach. You heard Leader Scalise and others reference it today.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop Mike Johnson right here, right now. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that Donald Trump has been taken advantage of, that President Biden, the DOJ, the FBI, District Attorney Alvin Bragg, AG Letitia James, DA Fani Willis, do you believe that they have taken advantage of the legal system and used it against Donald Trump? Or do you think Donald Trump's legitimately guilty? I just want to know from you guys. So, but yeah, so now let's go ahead and talk about this three-pronged approach. Now, this particular plan, by the way, guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for subscribing. You guys are amazing. Thank you for sharing these videos. And who do we have in the live right quick? All right, so we got Jose Lamelli. What's going on, Sam Pam? We got Greg Gabbitz, Jacob Bartlett, Brenda Jackson, Carol McCarty, and we got a lot of other folks. A.A. Avery. All right, but there's this three-pronged approach that we're hearing about, right? And this is coming from House Speaker Mike Johnson. So this plan will be using a couple of methods. So namely the appropriations process, right? legislation brought to the floor and Congress's oversight authority to take on the Justice Department. Mike Johnson, along with other Republicans, have blasted DA Alvin Bragg for campaigning on prosecuting Donald Trump. And much like what Attorney General Letitia James did when she was running for office, DA Alvin Bragg basically campaigned that he was going to get Donald Trump. Their main goal was to legally disrupt Donald Trump from campaigning. And as agreed on by experts, they were able to do that. However, the goal wasn't met without some, there were a few downsides to say the least, honestly, guys. The problem for these prosecutors that were coming after Donald Trump is that they've actually made Trump a martyr. Now, besides adding fuel, adding to the fuel of Donald Trump supporters who already feel like the justice system is being weaponized against the former president. But of course, talk is cheap. It's action that people want. People want to see action. Do something. Stop talking about it, right? And while House Republicans are now backing things up, as just recently, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, he announced that he would get both Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo to appear for testimony. Now, this is huge, guys. I mean, and some folks are calling to go, not just for testimony for Alvin Bragg, but they want Alvin Bragg thrown in jail. Does that sound like an appropriate punishment for DA Alvin Bragg? Or do you think DA Alvin Bragg served proper justice to Americans, to New Yorkers? Do you think Donald Trump was guilty, or should Alvin Bragg be the one being punished? I want to hear from you guys. But, now this will be in connection to what Jim Jordan sees as political prosecution. A lot of folks are calling this political prosecution and nothing short of that. Quick shout out and thank you to Freedom for the $5 super chat. Freedom says that the only possible way I see Donald Trump losing in 2024 is Biden or whoever's running the clown show cheats just as bad as they did back in 2020. Oh man, I mean, what they did in 2020, that had to have been illegal. It had to have been illegal. I mean, and there's so many records, there's so much whistleblowing taking place regarding the previous election that, you got to question it, guys. You got to question it. But anyway, so again, this is all in connection to what Jim Jordan sees as political prosecution. In fact, Jim Jordan, he also sent out a letter to move to reform funding for government offices coming this fiscal year. In fact, this will affect the FBI as well as the many prosecutors who have pushed against Donald Trump, namely Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James. Other Republicans, though, they want more than just all this talking letters. Matter of fact, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has openly criticized Mike Johnson for not getting anything done. Do you guys think Mike Johnson's not doing anything? Or is Mike Johnson just playing the role that the cards that he's been dealt? I want to hear from you guys, because some folks are like, Mike Johnson, you're a little weak. You need to show some backbone. But others are saying, Mike Johnson's doing a good job. So I'm wondering where you guys stand on that. Michael Thornsberry, thank you so much, my friend, for the $10 super chat this happy Friday, guys. This Friday. Michael Thornsberry says, time for the BS to stop. Are y'all with Michael Thornsberry? Is it time for the BS to stop? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Now, so Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's definitely a little bit more aggressive than Mike Johnson here. For those of you guys who may not know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the same woman who called out that other special senator for having fake eyelashes that were too long. That one definitely stirred up a little bit of, let's just say it was almost a cat fight in the middle of Congress. That was pretty interesting the other day. But anyway, especially if we're talking about if we're talking about President Joe Biden, right? So Biden, who she feels like is doing everything in his power to cram more illegal immigrants into the country. I mean, that's what we've been seeing, right? It's like Biden has sent out a mass email invitation to every illegal immigrant to come to the United States of America. He's making it easier. And this has now caused Marjorie Taylor Greene to threaten to trigger a privileged revolution to impeach President Joe Biden. Some folks say, hey, Biden should have been impeached. Others are saying Biden is a good president. There's not a lot of people saying that, but there are some people who are actually saying it. But she wanted to do it a little bit sooner, but she said that she'll go through the process and actually ask House Speaker Mike Johnson if he has any plans to do something about it. What's going on, Catalia? I see you in the comments. Now, as a lot of you guys may know, President Joe Biden, he is campaigning on the promise that he can do something about the border. Now, why does it take 3.5 years to do something about the border? I think that's just ridiculous, guys. He's been in office for, Jesus, what, like 3.5 years almost? And now you're doing something about the border? Really? Stephen Gardner says Ron Yates is the best, not Joe Biden. You know what? I'd have to agree with Stephen Gardner. What's up, man? Glad you were able to join the chat. Appreciate you, dude. Surprisingly, though, he's talking about executive action now. Something that he's been avoiding for so long that Americans probably have even forgotten that he had this sort of power, right? But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's arguing that this particular decision from the White House, it's not going to help the border crisis at all. In fact, all it's going to do is, according to her, it's going to set a weekly limit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that weekly limit's what, like 1,500, maybe 2,500, 3,000. I don't even know what the number is. But it's like, look, that's not a solution. Why is it not zero? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, but guys, let me know, is it 1,500 or is it 2,500 illegal immigrants per day? I'm not sure what that number is. In fact, though, all this thing is going to do, I mean, this is like, it's like trying to tell the American people you're doing something about it without actually doing something about it. Anyway, but the borders ultimately will be kept open for illegal immigrants. So a lot of folks are very unhappy about this. In fact, they're pissed off. And MTG, she also argues that Republicans, they need to grow a spine and for action to be taken as soon as possible. But here's the thing, guys. A lot of people feel as if her heart's in the right place. However, the method in which she wants to go about things, it's just not going to fly with a lot of people. And this is exactly what Speaker Mike Johnson said, as he stated that he's not committing to any vote for impeachment just yet. In fact, Mike Johnson, he says that they need to let the constitutional process and their constitutional responsibility go ahead and play out. And while he did say that President Joe Biden committed impeachable offenses while in office, it's still important to respect the process as to how things should be done. Even though Mike Johnson himself has claimed that President Joe Biden is the worst president we've had in the country. But he also still respects the investigation process that, has to be done in order to impeach the president. So I got to ask you guys, Mike Johnson says Biden, Brandon, Joe, the big guy, whatever you want to call him, is the worst president in the country, or at least the worst president we've ever had. So I got to ask you guys, do you agree with Mike Johnson? Is Biden the worst president? Was there another president that was worse than Biden? I want to hear from you guys on that. But some analysts believe that Mike Johnson, he wants to go through the proper steps. He doesn't want to be rash about these things. He doesn't want to be rash about these actions and then have nothing to show for it when faced with a technicality in the future. So basically, both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mike Johnson, they want the same thing. They want the justice system to work in a just manner. They want the border crisis to be stopped in its tracks. They also want to remove President Joe Biden, who a lot of people see as the worst president that we've ever had in history. But they also want to kind of make sure that all of this happens through completely opposite methods. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. If it was up to you, which road would you guys take? Would you go with Marjorie Taylor Greene's method to basically break down the door and get everything done, get things done? Or would you go with Mike Johnson's method of going by the book and beating the opposition at their own game? So are you more of a Marjorie Taylor Greene fan in terms of this plan, or are you more along the lines of Mike Johnson? Let me know what you guys think on that one. Wow. Sherry McGraw says Sleepy Joe's the worst by far. Miles. Jeez. A lot of you guys are actually on board with Marjorie Taylor Greene, a little bit more aggressive on this. Catalia's with Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG. I got a bunch of empty. Wow. Greg Gavitt says Mike Johnson's scared. Lighton says go by the book. So John Lighton's with Mike Green on that one. Rick Knight says enough is enough. Let's go, MTG. Let's see. Stephen Gardner says imagine all the GOP with MTG focus. Close the border permanently, according to Kay Jackson. Nip it in the bud, Guadalupe Rubino. Wow. Okay, so it looks like, all right, so I got to ask the question now. Since so many of you guys are voting for MTG, or at least her game plan on how to handle things, who would be a better House Speaker? Mike Johnson? Do you keep Mike Johnson, or do you swap Mike Johnson out for MTG? That's the real question here. That's the real question here. Jason Bartlett, what's good, man? Thanks so much for the $5 super chat. Jacob says Biden is the worst if you don't count the King of England. Jeez. Oh my God. Melody says swap. Let's see. Jacob Bartlett, MTG. Go by the book. Elsa samples. Let's see. Wow. Okay. So so Melissa Fountain says, I would like Johnson for speaker and MTG for VP. Ooh. So now we're talking VPs now. All right. All right. So MTG as vice president, Mike Johnson as House Speaker. All right. Mike Johnson is too weak, according to Melanie. But here's the thing, Melanie. It's like, Mike Johnson, he's got to be diplomatic here. He's got to be diplomatic here because, what happened with Kevin McCarthy, right? Kevin McCarthy, he may have been a little bit too aggressive and he ended up getting ousted as the House Speaker. And I don't know if Mike Johnson is concerned about being ousted like Kevin McCarthy. So maybe he's kind of being a little bit more strategic, a little bit more diplomatic, if that makes sense. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what's the point of being the House Speaker if you're not going to take full advantage of the power that you have, So, I don't know. It's a tough one for me. John Hawkins says Mike Johnson is at best a weak House Speaker. Byron Donalds would be a good choice. So it looks like you agree with Stephen Gardner. Stephen Gardner was saying Byron Donalds. Let's see. Winter Flower Child says Johnson walks a fine line, and sometimes he compromises too much. MTG is great, but she does defend herself when she could keep her cool. She for sure did defend herself over the last 60 days with against fellow Congresswomen recently. MTG has the balls. I wonder if MTG is offering a fitness plan. Have you seen her arms? I mean, she is definitely keeping fit. By the way, if you guys haven't already, be sure to hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure all your notifications are turned on whenever we go live. I get comments from you guys, messages. Ron, I didn't get a notification when you went live. I didn't get a notification for your last video. So make sure you guys have your bell icon enabled. And when you enable that, make sure you select all notifications. Because I think that's what a lot of folks are not checking. And that's why you're missing a lot of the times we go live. So appreciate that, you guys. What's good, Avery? So Avery says, I say Byron as well. Love MTG. She's a no-nonsense lady. Greetings from Nottingham, UK. I love my international viewers. I love all my viewers, obviously, but just the support we get from overseas is just, phenomenal. The Uniparty is wasting time with impeachment nonsense. Get to work. Thanks, Jay Lewis. Oh, man. Yes, ring that bell, you guys. Ring it. Oh man. Well, anyway, I definitely wanted to say happy Friday to everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you enjoyed your week. I got a lot more to share with you guys in the future. Let me know if you think DA Alvin Bragg should be jailed, um, or is DA Alvin Bragg just doing his job and not picking on Donald Trump? Let me know what you think about that. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for rocking with me. I'll see you guys in a few.